I'm Mia Malone.
And we're here to talk about Unbank the Fire.
Yes, Unbank the Fire was written by Shanice Hale, and it was copywritten in 1994, and it's definitely an informational book that the goal is to teach educators how to educate African American children. And Gary's going to talk about part one.
Okay, part one of the book is about the history of education for African Americans as far as the U.S. is concerned. It talks a lot about the struggles that a lot of newly freed slaves dealt with, like disenfranchisement and not equal opportunities in the school system, and then showed how what happened to them in the past affects those in the present and going on in the future.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about part two. So the book is really like a call and response. So this is the problem, and she gives ways on how to fix it. And so she talks about different things that you need to incorporate into education, because children aren't just failing because they're dumb, but there are a lot of psychological things that go into it. And so her biggest thing is to incorporate the psychology of African American children into how to educate them, because the school system wasn't built for our people. And so some solutions that she had was, artistic teaching, and she's really good about giving examples of different schools who have accomplished this. So the Visions Daycare Center, their curriculum is really geared towards empowering African American children. And if you empower children and help them to understand their greatness, then they're more likely to succeed in class. And she really talks about how some schools are negatively educating the African American children, and she calls it the incarcerated in school. It's called the incarceration effect, how schools are literally creating the school to prison pipeline because kids are lined up in lines where they can't talk, and teachers are acting like prison guards, principals are acting like wardens, but she's trying to break this cycle to empower African Americans.
Talks about the outside life of the student, two examples in particular, your home life and your church life, and how those experiences outside the classroom can affect early childhood education inside the classroom.
Right, and when kids are going from these different cultures, they have to balance a double consciousness. So in the school system, in order to move upward, they have to possess, for lack of better terms, what society calls acting white. And then when they go outside of school, they don't want to act white because they don't want to be ostracized by their culture. And so it's really learning, how can we create school to where it's not so geared towards acting white, but it's geared towards all cultures.
So Hale's writing from the perspective of a Black educator. She was an educator for over 20 years, and she's throughout her life has worked in organizations based on bridging the gap between white students and Black students.
So Hale is definitely coming from the perspective of an educator, a woman who has been in the classroom several years, and she's also worked as a professor, just an educator throughout her life. She has also founded numerous organizations that have catered to Black students, so I believe the perspective that she's offering here is definitely one of an educator.
Why did the author write on this subject matter? Janice E. Hale wrote on this subject, the Black student, because she wanted to give future educators and policymakers a tool to navigate the system with dealing with Black children and also helping them to succeed in the future.
She also believed that there should have been more measures to assist young Black children in the classroom as it helped prepare them for life outside of the classroom. So that's kind of covering the first question. The second question asks, what is the point of view of the author? And so the point of view of the author is from an educator's standpoint, and from a professor's standpoint. She has been an educator in the classroom for several years and has also founded numerous organizations that have catered to the Black student and their academic progress. But I believe her inspiration comes from, most importantly, her background with the civil rights movement, and also her father being a pastor, kind of giving her that foundation to start catering towards Black students.
Right, I agree. I think she also, her point of view is also shaped by her involvement with students. So when she did Visions for Children and other programs to help Black students, she saw firsthand what they needed. And I think that influenced how she wrote this book as well. So our last question is, who is the audience? And we believe the audience is future educators and policymakers. So people like us, but it's also to get everyone like in the Black community aware of what our students need and how we can help them succeed.
Delving back into Unbank the Fire by Janice Hale, we're going to take a look at the author's style. So we can see that Hale's style is formal. She uses personal examples, statistics, and research to back up the educational strategies that she proposes. Also, there's a sort of clarity in her words. However, you can tell that you need to have achieved a certain level of education to completely grasp everything that she's saying. And finally, her work shows progression, originality, and sustainability because it's still relevant today, over 20 years later.
To test the validity of Hale's argument, we asked our peers questions about their K-12 educational experience.
I would say it was challenging, unique, and very Black.
I would describe my K-12 education experience as repetitive, redundant, and tedious.
Challenging, open-minded, and the last word that I would use would be pride. So, yes.
3 words to describe my educational experience would be challenging, ever-changing, and foreign.
3 words I would use to describe my experience would be 1, exciting, 2, challenging, and 3, eye-opening.
Holistic, whitewashed, and safe.
No, not at all. Except for Black History Month, but I feel like every school kind of does that, you know, so no, it didn't really incorporate Black history into the curriculum.
So I believe that my K-12 education did not incorporate Black history enough. As furthest as I can remember, most of my first grade education we mostly glazed over slavery and went straight to American history. And as I progressed through the grades, I seen that Black history altogether was just left in bits and pieces, and we only talked about key figures such as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X.
No, I don't think so. I felt like we got the traditional American history. We learned about colonizers, slavery, and that was pretty much about it.
I would say no. A lot of times in our schools, had the opportunity to go into predominantly Black schools and predominantly white schools. And so in the predominantly Black schools, they would really have like a Black History Month, but it would only be dedicated to your usual Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. Whereas when I was in white school, we didn't talk about it at all. So there's something that I wish would have been said more or talked about would just be this history beyond slavery.
When I was in predominantly white spaces, I was more shy and I was less inclined to raise my hand and fear of asking a stupid question. So I think the atmosphere isn't encouraging when I was around all white people.
Yes. So K-4, I went to a predominantly Black school, but around the middle of my 4th grade year, all the way up to my 12th grade year, I went to school with predominantly white folks, and just the kind of treatment that I received as a student, I always felt the need to kind of prove myself and prove my like deserved thing to be there. A lot of times, and that kind of affected the way I would interact with my teachers and my fellow peers.
I would say so. I think that having people that look like you in class makes it easier or makes you more comfortable and allows you to actually explore your learning instead of just existing in the classroom.
I feel that we all work the same, but not in terms of us being mediocre. I feel like we were in an environment where we were constantly being challenged, and so we were all on that same playing field. So I would say the same.
I believe that I did work harder than my white counterparts, but at the same time, I believe that my teachers expected less, or just expected me to get through the bare minimum.
In education, in terms of homework and tests, I thought I worked harder because I was with upper class white people, so they could afford tutors in every subject and tutors to look over their projects and to do them before they were turned in. But in education, it's more than just homework. In terms of I had to do the extra mile to make sure my teacher remembered me, the extra mile to join clubs. I feel like everything I had to go the extra mile to make sure that I just wasn't part of the population, that I stood out.
To a degree, yes. I think it's that question or that thing we always hear from our parents: you have to work twice as hard to get just to where they are, or half to where they are. Necessarily from my own experience, I think because of the education I received and because I kind of saw that dynamic, it influenced me to like just at times give up. And so a lot of times I didn't really try to really like be or try to do my best.
Yes, I think when teachers look for who should be in those advanced courses, what they're going by is the standard created by white students, and black students may not show creativity and intellectual curiosity the same way the standard was created for white students. And personally, I attribute a lot of my success to being in higher level classes, which wouldn't be possible without my mom having the free time to come in and advocate on my behalf to be tested.
For honors and advanced courses in high school, me being one of the exceptions, I took a good number of AP courses. But at the same time, I was about one of 3 black children in those courses all throughout my high school career.
Majority of us were black. And I don't feel like we were not recommended. We were always pushed to do better, and we were always pushed to be in accelerated courses, and most of us were in accelerated courses. So
the changes that I would make to my school system is one, diversity between faculty and staff. The high school I went to, there were about 5 black faculty members and about 10 black teachers, and I personally felt that wasn't enough to counteract the number of their white counterparts or non-black counterparts.
honestly, I would just want more black teachers teaching black students. I feel that although the majority of the students were black and we had some population who was Latino, that majority of the teachers that were teaching us were not black or Latino. And so I would like to see more teachers who look like us and who we can relate to teaching us the curriculum.
Trust me when I say there are several things I hope to and would like to change about my school system, but I think the number one thing would be to really giving opportunities to students of color. So as I said in one of my previous answers about how a lot of students weren't allotted the opportunity to even take honors and advanced courses, I think there needs to be this notion in my school system that like each student deserves an equal opportunity to learn. All students can learn is what Hilliard says, or said, sorry. And so with that, I think it's important for us to really give each student an equal chance to really be their best selves.